Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 220 of Dial the Gate, the Stargate Oral History Project. My name is David Reed. Really appreciate you being here, and I'm really lucky to have this episode available. Mario Azzopardi, director of Children of the Gods, Stargate SG-1, and a number of Stargate episodes, is joining us for this episode. This is an interview I've been wanting to have for a really long time. You don't often get to talk with someone who sets up a series in collaboration with a bunch of other people, but his eye is the first that had a chance to work with these heroes, Jack and Sam and Daniel and Teal'c. And so much of what he brought in, he set up for the next 10 seasons of the show. All right, I'm going to stop blathering. Before I bring him in here, we're going to, I'm going to invite you to, if you enjoy Stargate and you want to see more content like this on YouTube, it would mean a great deal if you click that like button. It makes a difference with YouTube and will continue to help the show grow its audience. Please also consider sharing this video with the Stargate friend, and if you want to be notified about future episodes, click the subscribe icon. And giving the bell icon a click will notify you the moment a new video drops, and you'll get my notifications of any last-minute guest changes. And clips from this live stream will be released over the course of the next few weeks on both the Dial the Gate and GateWorld.net YouTube channels. This is a live stream, so Mario has invited fans to submit questions to him in the YouTube chat, and so we will have our moderators in there. I think it's Tracy and Anthony today, so go ahead and submit questions to Mario, and then I will circle back with him in the second half of the show and submit those questions over to him. Mario Azzopardi, director of Stargate SG-1 and Atlantis, but key to Children of the Gods. Sir, this is such a pleasure to have you join me for this episode. Thank you for being here.
Same here. Thank you for asking.
This, what is it like when you look back at a franchise that started off with a feature film, but has gone on to produce 17 seasons of television? From that initial episode that you directed, did you say at the time, oh yeah, they'll be going for decades? Or were you like, this is just another job, this is another assignment, you know, I hope that they do fantastic, but we're going to get them started off on the right track? Can you believe that it ran as long as it did?
Not really. Well, I don't think I approached anything as just another job. I'm very privileged and very lucky to have the job that I have. It's something that I enjoy, and I'm very lucky to say that I love my job. I wouldn't do anything else. I had worked with the team for quite some time. We did Outer Limits together. And I did about 20 of those episodes. And as you know, that series, every episode was its own film. You know, it wasn't. So we dealt with each and every episode as a new project. And of course, having spent 5 years together with Jonathan and the rest of the guys. I mean, there are so many people who contributed to this and who had so much to say in it. As you know, in television, it's not like film, right? A director is not as free as in a movie, where a movie is only the director's vision. In television, it's the showrunner comes first, and of course, then once he chooses his director, then the discussions that go on and on and on for months before we shoot determine the outcome. It's of course I had seen the movie a couple of times. And of course, we didn't have the budget that the movie had, but definitely the passion and the sense of trying to create something different for television was always there. Starting with the very first shot of the series. Now, in the original episode, that first shot from behind the gate and moving towards that table where the guys were playing cards, and we stop on top of them. Then the camera turns and comes down and rests on one side of the table with the gate behind them. That took a whole day to create. You don't find things like that at the time in television. I mean, we had to have the camera was on a crane, and in order for us to move, we had to move a little bit of the set that got out of frame once the camera started to move. So we had to really coordinate that move. I'm very upset actually that when they reissued the show, they cut this shot, and you don't have that first move. So the originals had it in the once they reissued that the shot was. But there was a lot of this. Remember, at the time, CGI was not as advanced as it is today, so you had to improvise a lot, and you had to depend on a lot of guys to help you get to that vision, not as easily as we do it today.
Wow.
But it involved. I think my prep was about 3 months on that. I mean, they had been prepping much before I came on, but it was 3 months, and of course, it wasn't enough. It was definitely not enough. But television is what it is, The casting went smoothly, and once we started, man, we were. It was fun. It was just fun. I don't think I enjoyed myself. No, I shouldn't say that, but it was definitely one of the projects that I enjoyed most on it. And again, when we shot it as 1 2-hour film, and then it was divided into 2 episodes. But originally, when we had the premiere in Los Angeles, it was shown as a full feature film, and it looked great on the big screen. I must say, it really looked great. It wasn't 4K at the time, so again, can you imagine if had we shot that show on 4K, it would have been so much more beautiful. But anyway, it was what it is, and then it went on. It just went on. We started in rough waters. I think we didn't get the support, the immediate support that we thought we were gonna get. It took its time, but then eventually, once it caught on, my goodness, how many seasons were there?
17 of the whole franchise, but 10 of SG-1.
Yeah, no, that is the longest sci-fi franchise ever, right? I mean, is
It's
that
up
the
there.
oldest?
It's up there with Star Trek for sure.
Is Star Trek television? Do they have that many seasons?
In a single show, no. Smallville beat it for the Guinness World Record in terms of number of episodes, and then I think what's the show with the Winchesters? Supernatural went on further, but for a little while there, SG-1 held the world record, and they can't take that away from them.
Yes.
It's wild.
Yes. Yeah. I after a while, I decided to move on, only because of the fact that I never stay with one show too long. That I much prefer to keep on doing different stuff. The longest I stayed, I think, was with Outer Limits, because of the fact, though, that each and every show was very different from each other.
Wow.
And then but the show. I mean, the show became a sensation, worldwide. It's unbelievable. Wherever I went, it's not the film I'm premiering in France that got most attention, but my work on Stargate. It becomes very frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, it's I am always amazed at the number of European fans who find this channel and who reach out to me and want to do stuff, especially in France in particular. They are crazy about this U.S. paramilitary show. There's just something that really rings true to them about the spirit of the show and the realism of the characters and the humor. And I think that it transcends time. There's many episodes now that are more relevant than they were when they aired.
Yes, it's true. It has a resonance, that, and I don't want to go too deep into it, but there is a resonance. It's like when you play a video game, and it's that kind of video game where you've got shaded area.
Yeah.
And you have to uncover. The more you move into the map, you open up. That had that sense of discovery. You're going to see something new. You're going to see something totally different from what you've seen before. That's a promise that the show had, and that's one of the things that made it so successful. But then there are other things. There are other things that are so basic that I read in an article in France, actually, that the gate is a symbol of the human womb. Every time you go through it, you come out into a new life, in a new existence. So that in itself is a metaphor that resonates, even though you don't know it's that, but it reminds you of something. Just like I hope your friends are not going to think that I'm a weirdo, but in sport. The kind of the sport depends on getting that ball into the net. Most of sport is getting the ball into the net. And what is that? That is a kind of reincarnation of the first thing of existence, where the sperm has to hit the egg in order to survive. And it's only one egg that will go. And that's what, again, there are a lot of levels that pull you in without you knowing that you're being pulled in, because it resonates to your very existence, it resonates to your very being. And when a show manages to do that, you go throughout every major film, and you'll realize that the film that becomes so popular is because of the fact that it talks about the basic existence of humankind, and you're attracted to it without realizing that you know already what it is about. You don't know yet, and once that hits, it's unbelievable how that's the secret. That's the secret that I think all writers try to find. It's not the plot. It is the attraction. It is the latent attraction. It is the hidden attraction of the subject matter that smacks you across the face and says, "Wow, my God, they're talking about me." That's. But anyway, that's your philosophy lesson for today.
No, absolutely. The same with the Outer Limits. Stargate attracts us on a species level, like almost on like a tadpole level, like where we really came from. In terms of, I think the thing that I love about science fiction, and I started this with original Star Trek and with Next Generation. That's all I was allowed to watch until I was like 8 years old. Was Star Trek and Mr. Rogers and PBS and all those shows. And I go back and I watch them now as an adult, and I can see that I was entertained as a child, but I can also see that I was being imbued with these specific axioms of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable and what is morally right and morally wrong. And Stargate does that week after week. You know, you watch the pilot episode and you can see Teal'c struggling. You can see his hatred for the situation that he has been placed in, and you can see his desire to find a way out. And then in that critical moment where O'Neill sees it too, warrior to warrior, I can save these people, please help me. And Teal'c turns, and it's like, I totally get that as a human being. I've watched his journey in little moments throughout this first hour and a half or hour and 15 minutes or whatever it is. And I can relate to being in a situation where I can't get out. You know, there's something beautiful about that first episode. And I think Teal'c really is the star of that whole first episode. It's a masterful show. You know, that you guys did yourselves proud with that pilot. And I don't think if the pilot was as strong as it was, I don't think that the show would have lasted as long as it did. And that's a huge tribute to you and Brad and Jonathan. I mean, you guys made that thing take off.
Yes, the sequence in prison was a particularly favorite of mine, because it is the you know, it's the human condition. It's the human condition. It's where humans have battled against slavery of one sort or another throughout history, and the fight continues. It continues. I mean, you know, it's slavery is not necessarily what we there are many different kinds of slavery, and it's what we continually to try and free ourselves from. The humankind is a constant battle for freedom, for whatever freedom means. It's there. But then there is also one other thing, and I think this is something that I've been thinking about a lot of time, especially about science fiction. Again, this has been interpreted as being blasphemous by some and rejected by many others. But for me, science fiction is a sort of negation of everything that we've been told about religion of any sort. Because, you know, if we take what we know today in all the Bibles, all different Bibles of the world, of we being the center of the universe, and now we're talking about aliens, so what happens to our beliefs? In the Christian faith, you know, are we the people that the Christ came to save, or did he save also these other people? And are these people the chosen of God, or they are not? So there are so many complex theological questions as soon as you start dealing with science fiction, that it becomes mind-boggling. It blows your mind away. This is why you find people who don't want to have anything to do with science fiction. Perhaps they don't know why, because I mean, perhaps it's because that once they are made to think that way, you know, there are no answers. There are just no answers. Not only there are no answers, it opens up such a huge universe of questions that even thinking about it scares the shit out of you.
But aren't the questions more important at the end of the day?
Yes,
the pursuit of the questions.
Yeah. You see, the thing is this, though, that our culture, especially in the West, depends on answers. Okay, yes, ask questions, but there has to be an answer. If there is no answer, then there's a problem. That's where the myths start to appear. That's where new religions foster. That's where new theories come in, and all the theories are basically wishful thinking, and the hope for an answer. I don't think there is that we have accepted the reality that, you know what, perhaps there is no answer.
Perhaps there is none.
And our journey into the gate to find answers is again one of those elements that hits squarely between our eyes. We know there are none. We know there are none for everything that we've known before, because what we're seeing beyond the gate is more terrifying than the stories that we've been told when we were young. So it's really very hard to live with the notion that perhaps our theological past can't resonate with science fiction, which now today, when we realize the vastness of space and the huge probability that there can be life, there must be life somewhere out there. Actually, one of the scripts that I wrote, never done because I could never find the final money that I needed to do it, basically is this, and that is that we talk about conspiracy theories about the government not telling us about finding aliens, about if one were to stop and think about it, if they were to have the proof, can you imagine the chaos that would be caused worldwide if any proof of extraterrestrial beings is proved? It would throw all our cultures off. And Stargate did it without this controversy. Stargate did that with nuance, with panache, with grace, and with joy, with joy of telling a story. But behind it all is all this thinking. I don't know whether I'm being boring here.
You're not being boring. I think that you're tapping into something that is universal about science fiction, and I think that at the end of the day, if we are just Stardust and we return to Stardust at the end, apathy is not going to get us anywhere. It's the struggle to figure out what we're made of and to be better people to ourselves and to each other that is the most important. And going out through that gate and trying to help other civilizations, sometimes failing miserably, but trying to expand our knowledge of the cosmos and help others and come home as a different person as a result once you come back and you complete the hero's journey.
And also open up Pandora's box.
Yeah.
And opening up yourself to possible annihilation.
Yeah.
Again,
very much so.
Science fiction is the apple on Adam and Eve's tree.
Yeah.
You bite it at your own peril. So we go through that gate at our own peril. And does that mean we should not ask questions? No. I'm going back to what I said before. Always ask questions.
Yeah.
Don't pretend you're always gonna have the answer.
Exactly.
That is what I like most about science fiction. That's what I've done. I've done a lot. I've done RoboCop. I've done my goodness, so I can't even remember. But both in Toronto and Vancouver, we did a lot of shows. Many American shows were done in Toronto and Canada because of the fact of the tax rebates and so on and so forth. And basically, so I did a lot. I did the pilot for. My goodness, I can't.
You've done so much work, Mario. I don't know how you all keep it in your head. I mean, Time Cop, Poltergeist, The Legacy. You got Highlander in there. So there's so much.
But I'm trying to find the show that again the pilot was sensational. We only did one season, I'm afraid. It was a big movie. About robots, who become very sentient, and what was it called?
I'm trying.
My goodness, I'm going to go to IMDb here.
Robots that become sentient.
I'm getting old. My goodness.
It's not Captain Power, is it?
No. It's
okay. You did that first one there. It'll come to us.
Yes.
Can you tell me about directing Richard Dean Anderson?
A joy, absolute joy. He was a team player, and I never had one single problem with him. He was there. He collaborated. He enjoyed his work, at least at the time that we started doing this. And I never had any problem at all whatsoever. It was wonderful. I remember him one day. Cell phones had started to be very very common at the time. So I had to have my cell phone on because there was an emergency at home. So I had to have it, and I asked the director, the producer, to please let me carry, and my phone goes off, and I remember him looking at me, giving me the look that I'll never forget for the rest of my life. And I went red and I apologized, and then we went on. So, but everyone, Samantha. Everybody was so enthusiastic. Everybody wanted to work. Everybody wanted to give their everything. How it always starts. It always starts like that. And then the 6th, 7th season comes through, and everybody this has one thing that happens. Everybody becomes the director. I mean, I wasn't there at the time. By the time I had already left. But everybody then decides that they can direct and write, and of course we move on, and they take over and they move on. If the base is there already, then definitely it helps a lot with directing, because the answers have already, the questions have already been answered.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a different thing starting from scratch, deciding the Bible of the show. It's there, but in the first few episodes, and especially in the pilot, you're testing the Bible, And sometimes you find yourself in a situation where you have to make a decision of chucking a part of that Bible and creating it there on the spot. That's where Jonathan and Brad came in. They were brilliant. They were brilliant. I mean, they knew this show inside out, and my goodness, it's there are always problems, right?
Sure.
Thank God there are always problems. Problems is what pushes you forward. But with this one, the once the technical was decided upon, then it was clear sailing. And of course, the fact that the film was there helped us a lot too, especially with the transport donuts, So that was thank goodness it was there, because thinking that up must have been quite something.
Absolutely. I think the show you were trying to think of was Total Recall 2070.
Total Recall. That's right.
Thank you for the chat. Thank you, Tracy. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. Total Recall. That's right. That was another one. That was a big one. A big one. Even there, the first shot of that show, the very first shot, which started with going up into the city and designing the shots. So as the camera moves in CGI and moves up. Again, remember, we're talking here, we're talking about 30 years ago, right? So 20 years ago, something like that. So
it would have been a big shot.
The technology was, but we had to start on CGI, and the camera moves up the CGI into the set, go along the street of the set, move up, go around, go into an office, and turn around so that the actors are now with their back to the window that we've just come through. Again, one whole day to get that one shot. So
wow.
I love that. I simply love that. And again, to think about 35, 38 years ago, when the aesthetic was not there, but I remember shooting a show called Night Heat, in which one shot moved between five sets and then back again to exactly where we started from. Again, and the Steadicam at the time consisted of a camera on a stick with a weight below underneath. So that's how we moved it. But anyway,
that's wild. You sat in on the casting for SG-1. Can you tell us? Yes. Can you tell us about that process?
Oh my goodness! I'm trying. There's been so many.
I know you've done a lot there. Amanda Tapping, Michael Shanks, Christopher Judge. These people who are so well known. Now Amanda's a huge director. Christopher has gone on to
she's come a long way.
Yeah,
my goodness, and she deserves it. A wonderful lady, very talented, very driven, very knows exactly where she's gonna go, what she wants, and she became a very important cog in the whole wheel of the show. Eventually, later on, I mean, by the time I came on, I think the leads had already been decided by the studio, and then it was all the other small parts that I took care of. But the contracts, which always take a very long time to go through, MGM had already established. So this was months before we started. So we then, once I came on, the four leads were there.
Got it. Understood. The first day of shooting, you guys had some bad weather.
Yeah. My goodness, how, where do you get all this info from?
A lot of interviews. I understand part of the set fell over. You had to
Yes,
crack
yes,
down some of the footage. Tell us about that first
yes,
day.
yes. Yeah, we were rained out in Vancouver. We were, I don't know what we started with, but I remember on the first day. Once we finished the first day, we were about 1 week behind schedule, something like that.
Wow.
We were. It was. It was my yes. That's right. You're bringing back memories here that I have totally forgotten. But anyway, it's yeah.
I can't imagine the weight of something like that, because you must think like the gods are just frowning down upon you. It's like, seriously though, this is the first day of this huge production. It's already been, at this stage, I think, given 2 years, if not 4 at this point to go, and you get back and you find out there's a friggin' tear down the middle of your footage. I mean,
Yes.
like, how do
Yes.
what do you do? I guess you deal with it.
And again, we are all professionals. You know, these things happen. You go into your Winnebago, you close the door, you close the windows, you swear a lot, and then you put on a nice face, a nice smile, and you come down and you ask for a coffee. They bring it to you, and you say, "Okay, what's next?" Actually, the standing joke is that when I got on set every day, I always welcomed my AD with, "Okay, so what's the problem for the day?" because like that, whatever comes in, it's not a surprise. I go in there knowing that there's gonna be a problem.
You're trying to head it off at the pass.
Now, being a Mediterranean bred and born, you know, sometimes it's not always easy to keep the stiff upper lip and keep calm. Sometimes you have to let the gods know that what you think of them.
Yeah,
and
I'm not messing around today.
And you do, absolutely you do. But then at the end of the day, you meet, you say, "Okay, it's a wrap for the day, people. We'll see you at the hotel. Let's go have a drink." And that's what you do. That's what you do. You have a drink and you go into your room and you prepare for the next day. And that's what happens. I mean, of course, you've done a lot of prep before, but every day getting on set, there's always that not I'm trying to find a better word for fear, but I remember my father, who was a scriptwriter, always used to tell me, you know, the day you stop being afraid is the day you have to stop doing this business.
Mm-hmm.
Fear is a huge motivator. Knowing how to deal with it and knowing how to take control of it. You must never let fear take control of you, but accept it and deal with it and move forward. And this is something that I tell my kids. You know, my daughter Lara is a producer writer in Los Angeles these days. She's going to be the showrunner for Cruel Summer once the damn strike ends.
Yeah.
My son is assistant director on Chucky. And my third daughter is the sanest of them all. She has nothing to do with this business. She's in finance.
She figured it out.
Yeah, she figured it out.
Oh, that's funny.
It's. I mean, you know, regrets. I have a few, of course. You know, I've lived my life running around from one set to the other, from one side of the globe to the other. And my wife, whom I've been married to now for 46, 47 years.
Ah, congratulations.
Thank you. She's the one who raised my kids. I was absent of the time, but hey, listen, I'm providing for my family.
That's it.
And it's not the first time that from Vancouver, I would, especially during prep week, I used to take the 3:00 flight from Vancouver on Friday night, and then go spend 2 days in Toronto in order to take the 7:00 flight back on Sunday night back to Vancouver. And doing that for 6-8 months is tough. Of course, I had lots of travel points.
I suspect you did. Where do you want to go this year, kids? Belize? Jeez.
But Teresa is the one, and I miss the fact that I missed a lot of my kids' my kids' life. Something that I'll never get back,
do they appreciate and understand the sacrifice that you made?
I think today they do.
Okay.
I think Lara has 3 kids of her own now. I think today they do. At the time it was difficult. Dad, why weren't you here for my graduation? For God's sakes, I just I can't leave a set. What do you do? What do you do?
You can't.
It's not a choice. It's that's the life. That's the life there. I mean, if we were shooting in Toronto, that would have been different.
Yeah.
But when you're shooting in Vancouver, my family's in Toronto, or when I'm in Los Angeles, and or in Paris, or in Mexico, or in Tokyo, what are you going to do? How is it possible? So it was the cause of much rancor at the time. Today, I think they realize what Daddy had to go through.
When you look at a show the size of Stargate, with all its complicated wheels and gears, all the machinery that goes into it, from the massive sets, the Stargate itself, which, I mean, I can't believe that they managed to create this thing and it worked every time. In 10 seasons, it never missed a glyph.
Yes.
When you look at it from a macro perspective, what are some of the things that you can't believe that you achieved, and what were some of the hardest elements to pull off? Imagine the visual effects were a huge deal.
Visual effects, again, remember, I don't want to talk against myself here, but this is not the work of one person.
Right.
This is the work of hundreds of people, each in every department. Every department has its head. Every department has its subhead, and then the people who design and who create. Right. But everything starts around the table, and I, as the director, I would like to achieve this, because that's what the script is asking for. But I have my suggestions. Listen, story-wise, this is not going to work because this and this and that. And then also, you get 2 pages of dialogue, and again, I'm generalizing here and I'm exaggerating for effect. But we can get the same effect of fear just by having the camera slowly move into the eyes of your character and being helped with music. That's going to tell so much that you don't need certain dialogue. We can let the camera tell the story. That was always a contention, a good, healthy contention, between the person who sweat his blood to write those lines, and here comes this upstart director who speaks English in a funny accent and says, "Why do we need these words? Cut these words." It's not. it's not easy to digest that. But then, you see that certain things need not be said if they're being shown.
Yeah, show don't tell. That's
Exactly.
That's
Show
what I've
don't
heard.
tell.
Yeah, if you can show it,
Yeah.
it's a visual medium. This
Yes,
isn't an
yes.
audio book that we're talking about here.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I would imagine, because
You mentioned that instance between Tilk and
Apophis, yeah.
where they realize that
Oh yes.
they can help each other here. I mean, we explained that without words, and then one line, I can save these people, and that's where the whole fireworks then start, so again, the music helped it a lot. The music is I always take the example of that movie Fire, the Runners film. I gotta go on the names. I get.
Oh, are you talking about Chariots of Fire?
Chariots of Fire.
Yeah, absolutely. Great piece of music.
Take away that fantastic music.
Yeah.
And all you get is 15 men in their underwear running along the beach. It's that. But that music by Vangelis, my God, gives it. Makes it. It's that slow motion is. I mean, you'll never forget it. You just forget it. The amalgamation of picture and sound.
Yeah.
Defies any words,
Joel Goldsmith was a master. He was brilliant.
No, this was Vangelis.
No, but I'm talking about Joel Goldsmith in Stargate. Joel was absolutely.
I mean,
we've lost such a huge talent when he passed.
You're talking about one of the greatest of them all.
Yeah.
My goodness, of course. It's. But even those beats of his it resonates with that with the wheel going around, brilliant. So this is why it's for me. I cannot take full credit for any one thing, because that credit is always. This is why I get very upset when certain artists, not to mention what kind of artists, they think that they are the end all of everything, because they're not. They're there because of what shoulders they're on, because of the shoulders they're on.
It's a collaborative industry.
Oh, huge, enormous. Yeah. Of course, there's got to be a captain. There's got to be a person says, no, this is how it's got to be. This is how it's got. In television, it's a lot more something that the showrunner takes care of. Once the show starts to go on, it's the showrunner really that's the head, and this is why I didn't like too much staying with one show, because. At that point, I found that my job became just a traffic cop. I didn't want to do so. I preferred to stop my relationship with the show in order to go to something new, especially a pilot or a movie, or something that I wrote, rather than come in and. Do episode number 55.
Well, if it no longer scares you, it's time to move on.
Yes, exactly.
I get that.
Exactly.
You have a creative drip that you can't shut off.
Yes.
And, you have to see, okay, where else and how else can I grow?
That's exactly
right.
Exactly.
I have a question about sensitivity on sets. So the pilot is the only episode with a nude scene. This was mandated
Yeah.
by Showtime because Showtime is, is cable, and it's things that you can't see on regular television. Can you tell us about the process of going through? Vaitiari had never done a nude scene before, Vaitiari Bandera. Can you tell us about the process, not necessarily of this particular scene, but I mean, you have shot these kinds of scenes before. What is the process that goes into that? How do you make the cast comfortable? Was the closed set? How does that work?
Yeah.
It's a very sensitive situation.
Yeah. Today it's done very differently, right? Today it's done. There's a lot of the process today is totally mandated and very bureaucratic. I am from Europe. I find that nudity in movies and in show business is not so prurient as it is in the States. In the States, it was, at the time, it was too much of a big deal. It was a big deal. My introduction and when I discuss with the actors, I always start in the, first of all, it has to come in the casting, at casting time.
Of course.
All right. So we're offering you this part. This part involves this. This part involves that. Are you okay with it? And I tell them, if you feel uncomfortable, please don't do the part. Even if I've offered it to you and you don't feel comfortable to just take, to go ahead, don't do it. Because you live with regret for the rest of your life. Yeah. Unless it's something natural for you, something that you can live with it, don't get involved. Then you find situations where, no, listen, I mean, you want me to jump out of a plane? Of course I can. I'm an actor. I can do whatever. I get a horse. I can ride a horse. Then you give them a horse and they say, which end do I get on? Where should I look? I'm not talking. I'm again talking very generally and from experience, where actors will say yes, they can do things which they know that they can't do, right. And then they get into trouble. But let me tell you one thing: nudity is very boring. It's something to look at for the first 5 seconds. At the 6th second, 7th second, who cares? Come on, let's get the job done. You take, you have your people, to cover up when the shot is over. But again, it's a human body. It's a human body, and once the surprise is gone, it's gone. It's unless one is a weirdo, that is. But
where's my pause button, Mario?
but it's. I think I always thought when I went to North America, I always thought that, my goodness, I'm going to North America. I had left my country, Malta, in 1978, because a play. I'm a theater man too. I've produced dozens of plays in the theater, at the National Theater in Malta, and that's what I'm doing now. I enjoy it, and I do shows nowadays for local television for absolutely no money whatsoever. But I am so free, I can do whatever I like, whatever subject I want, with no executives breathing down my neck. So, freedom of expression, freedom of creativity at the loss of the money that I made in North America. Mm-hmm. But when I remember when I went to when I was going to, my idea of America was freedom from everything. And then I got there and I realized really how backwards it was in matters of sexuality, for example. Again, we're talking 1978. okay, where things.
The free love and the Cultural Revolution,
But even so, once you went into the media, I mean, I have stories. I was shooting a cop show, Night Heat, and the scene was these two cops rush into this house. They go into the bathroom and they they see the person taking a shower behind the curtain, and they take out their guns, and they scream and they shout, but this guy never moves. So they slowly open and they find the mannequin there. The mannequin had a nice pair of tits on.
Okay, yeah.
The next day, I got this huge screaming match from CBS. What the hell are you doing? You've got to reshoot that. You've got to remove that. So we had to reshoot it with the mannequin without any head, without arms, and turned round. A similar thing was when again, same show, when these two cops, when this robber comes into this house, he's got a nice piece of meat, and there's a dog in the house. He opens the bathroom, throws the meat in the bathroom, the dog goes in it, he closes the door and then proceeds to ransack the house. The owner comes in, there's a huge fight. The owner opens the door, the dog comes out, leaps at the robber takes his gun out, shoots the dog and gets off. So he goes bang, bang on the dog, then kills the man, bang, 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 and he leaves. The next day, another screaming telephone call. How dare you shoot that? How dare you shoot the dog?
Yeah.
It's okay to shoot the man, but it's not.
Isn't that wild?
No, of course, you never saw anything. It's just everything off camera, and you feel, oh, that's it. So the hypocrisy of the rules and regulations in media was something of a shock to me. I mean, in Europe we see much worse. Is that the right way to put it? But it's not. It was different. It was a shock for me. I didn't realize that. So in preparing for, that's what I did with her. She knew exactly what she had to do. She had women around her, covering her up. She comes on set. She lies on she's totally covered. Everybody that's not necessary in the shot leaves the studio. And when she is ready, we remove we start shooting. We start the camera rolling. Everything is fine. The clapperboard comes in, and whenever you're ready, ma'am. And somebody takes the thing off. We do the shot, cut. She's covered immediately. So there is a lot of grace. But I think, in my opinion, I could never understand why all this concern. I mean, I may get into trouble for saying that, but if people are so upset with these kind of scenes, the first step should be they should refuse to do it. They should refuse to do it. They should not accept the part. Now, if they're being given an option, listen, do you want this part? It has some nude scenes in it. This is how we're going to shoot it. I had to explain everything to her, how it was going to be shot. We showed her storyboards. I think we had storyboards already. So it was totally her choice to accept or refuse. Nobody forced her. Nobody made her. Nobody insisted that she does something that she didn't want to do. And that's how it should be. Today, there is there is a lot more concern given and a lot more hullabaloo insisted upon, which I guess people are comfortable with, and that's the way they want to do it today. All power to them. I have absolutely no problem and no contention against it. It's for me, it's still very, very strange. Why this mysticism about nudity? Anyway, that's the old Mediterranean European that I am.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts on that. Do we have a little bit more time?
Sure. I mean, I have all night.
Well, I have. You're a night owl like I am. I have some fan questions for you.
Yes. What do I do? Do I answer them or do I type them?
I will. I am going to ask them to you, and you just respond them to me.
That's good.
Lockwatcher wanted to know, you directed SG-1 in 97, then you returned to Atlantis in 04. How had the production of the show changed, if it had changed at all? And how was it working with a new cast along with a few you had worked with previously?
The old characters, it was always a pleasure to come back and to see them again. With the new generation, there were I've got to find the right words.
Different expectations.
There were expectations of grandeur that are always the downfall of many. This is a job, guys. I mean, all the hullabaloo, all the publicity, all that is for you, the fans. It's not for us, the workers. It's by creating this interest and by the fans adulating and loving the story and wanting to be the characters. It's all created, right? It's all made up. It's not real. But once you start to believe that you deserve this because you are doing this, and once we forget humility, and listen, there were times, now I can speak because I'm an old man, but there were times when I was guilty of this too,
Yeah.
And something happens on set, when, especially in a moment of success, that one trips. And unfortunately, many do trip. Look what's happening with Snow White at the moment in Los Angeles, and all that. Such a pity, because that kind of behavior destroys careers, But the concept was different. It was a change, and I don't think I was as happy as I was in the original because of the things that had changed. And I know things were very different. I can't remember exactly, but
Atlantis was a different cast and a different animal.
Yeah, it was time for me to move on, and I only did a couple of shows, I think, there, and nothing, no more.
Sometimes, a direct, and I've heard stories. Sometimes a director and a cast are not going to gel. And I've heard that SG-1 really was the exception rather than the rule, where Brad and Jonathan and Richard and Michael Greenberg, they were very much life's too short.
Absolutely.
No grandstanding on this set. We are all equals here.
I'm glad you mentioned Michael
Greenberg. He's brilliant.
Michael was a brother. He was. We drank together. We spent time together. I enjoyed it. He challenged. Michael was always gracious and always asked you to weigh your choices, and that was great, because now you have a little bit of a live testing ground, what do you call it, testing spoon, and he made things clear. Sometimes we disagree, sometimes we
Sure,
because he's seeing things. But so what? That's part and parcel of the whole thing. Nowadays, unfortunately, disagreement is something to be shied, to be avoided.
well, it's so public. It's just so public now, So,
why is it? Why are you afraid to disagree?
Yeah.
Well, if you're afraid to disagree because you want to defend your job is one thing, but if you are giving yourself to the show, if you're giving yourself to the story, then you'd better tell your story, because if you're telling somebody else's story, why the hell are you there? You're there because you're going to tell your story. And I always made it mine, something that as I went along in my career, I found that this was getting eroded until, many shows, you were expected to go in there, call action, and get the hell out of town as soon as you say the last cut. That's not fun. That's not fine. I mean, you'll make the money, you'll make the, and this is I started by saying how lucky I am doing this job, and unless I was going to continue doing that, then I was not happy to continue. So at that point, I got off television episodic, and I started created my own episodes, like Zos and miniseries, which I directed the whole all 8 episodes, and small movies and movies for television, where the director we harkened back to the old meaning of what a director is. As I said, you're asking me to direct your movie because you think I can bring something original to the show. If I were to know that you're asking me because I'm available and you can ask anybody else, well, what the hell? No, I'm not. Why?
What fun is it to be just the foreman of an assembly line?
Yeah, look, again, 99% of jobs in the world are not jobs that people enjoy doing. I mean, you go to your job because you have to eat, you have to feed your family, and this is why I said I am extremely lucky to have the job that I have had for all my life. I've never worked in anywhere outside the entertainment business ever. So I'm very lucky. And if I'm on set, I'm being insulted by asking to obey. And why the hell do you want to be there? Well, you just do it, Thank you very much.
There has to be a creative component in there somewhere.
Yeah, if there is no creative component and you're on set, you're in the wrong place, man. Yeah. You're in the wrong place.
Yeah. Don't just get the shot out. Make it interesting. Yes, you're going to get the shot out. This is to a degree an assembly line, but still.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about the great directors that we have working on television today, because there are some fantastic directors. But then you find people who are there who know how to cover very well. They know how to cover a scene as opposed to interpreting a scene. Can you see the difference? Okay, I have the scene, I have to have the wide angle, the tight shot, the moving shot, the running 2 shot, and it's covered well, very efficiently. It says everything and it's there. But that is something that A, B, C, and D can do. Now, if you're on, and you and only you can direct the show in your special way, in the choice of the angle, in how to tell the story, and you tell it your way. That is what makes the director. That is what makes the interpretation of the story instead of covering the story.
Absolutely. Ibreck wanted to know, was there ever a consideration in having a team do a making of during the Stargate pilot, or was there just never time? It would have been so interesting. There is.
There is. Yeah, there is. I'm sure there is. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my goodness! Of course there is. Yes, I remember doing interviews on it too.
I've not seen anything that was based specifically. I've not seen any B-roll from the pilot, but it may be out there somewhere. Showtime may have done something.
Yes. You should look into it because I'm sure there are.
Okay.
Sure there are.
I'll poke around.
Yeah.
So, Pamela Terachek, when you were directing 38 Minutes on Atlantis, what choices did you have to make to accommodate shooting in such close quarters? You've got this little closet of a puddle jumper. How do you handle a space like that? And is it more freeing in some ways because you don't have distractions of a larger space? Does it force you to be more creative?
Okay. So we created the pad, right? But this pad was divided in 4. So you had this half, that half, and this. So basically, depending on the shot that we have, we would remove a huge part of that pod, and we have the whole studio there, and we're working in a much larger space than you think you are. I mean, it was impossible to work in that. So no, we were not confined by space at all, because you always remove the part of the set that you're not using. Of course, the problem comes when you get this upstart director from Malta who comes in and says, "Look, I want to shoot one way." And
Well, you know what? It's your thank you, to them. You have to have moments of levity in there every once in a while, because it's such a grind, 12, 13, 14-hour days, You've got to get the shot. So, especially with the pilot. Yeah.
you have to trust that other people are doing their jobs correctly. And when misunderstandings happen and things don't work well and tempers start to flare, that's where now you have to take the reins in your hands and pull in, and like in a military situation, give orders, be ready to give the orders and to have them executed. There's no democracy in that situation.
Yeah.
It's somebody has to decide. Now, if the studio decides, like in that situation where, look, we want you to reshoot that scene with the mannequin, or a famous note I got once from the producers of Outer Limits, where these guys were shooting at robots and the robots were exploding and this blue goo comes out, and the note from the studio was, "Robots don't have blue blood." So you stop, you try not to laugh, and you ask very respectfully, "What color is robots' blood?" "Why, it's red, of course."
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want us to reshoot? Because all the robots are blown up, and it will cost you another 1.5 million. So what shall we do? So they would now send it to CGI in order to paint that. I mean,
Oh my
madness,
God.
absolute madness. This happened on an episode of Outer Limits, I remember. But that's the joy of it. That's the joy of that. That's the business you're with.
That's wild.
So no, my dear friend, definitely we had lots of space to shoot that sequence in, just by removing the wall that was in the way.
Wow.
At the time.
Susan McEwen wanted to know, Mario, how much freedom do you give actors to find their own character layers within a scene once they're in it, and only step in when you felt the performance straight from the intent? Like,
okay.
Where's the boundary there with actors? Because actors are sensitive people, and you can't really tell them how to do something. You have to lead the horse to the water.
Everybody is sensitive. Everybody is sensitive. Believe me, from the props master who realizes that I don't like the prop that he's brought in to the craftsperson that has given you a sandwich that tastes like shit. And you tell him so. So, first of all, I always enjoy to see what an actor brings to the set. Now, I have an idea, which now that idea has been passed to studio and Brad and Jonathan. So we have agreed what we're going to do. Nothing happens by chance, right, or very little happens by chance. But it's a very stupid director who does not allow his actors to give him their storytelling. Just as I want to tell my own story, they are also telling a story because they are storytellers too. We are all storytellers. Actors are storytellers. Writers are storytellers. Directors are storytellers. Set designers are storytellers. We're telling a story. All of us are telling a story. And the minute you insist on whitewashing everything in order to have only one side, one interpretation of that story, then you become very bland. But sometimes an actor comes in and gives you something, a cry, a pause in a delivery that is magic, and you leave it, you let it go, you don't stop it, you encourage it, and then of course, when all is said and done, everything comes down to the editing room, right? So I do my cut, and then once I do my cut, I give that cut to the studio, and the studio does their own cut. So there are many a time when I'm saying, what? But that's the business. You fight for it. You have to know which hill you're ready to die on.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I died on too many hills because I was a son of a bitch and I really hated people changing my work, and that was not always very salutary. But you know what? I am happy with my work. I'm happy with what I've done. Most of it. I'm happy, and there were many a times when relationships had to be severed because there's irreconcilable differences, and you live with it. You move on. Onward.
Yeah.
Onward.
Creative people are going to have creative differences, and that's okay.
That's okay, as long as you know how to manage it, right? You manage that difference. You pick up one piece, you take the other, you drop it. Now, when you have to drop certain things, hopefully one does it with grace.
Yeah.
I was not always able to drop it with grace. Because when you say thank you, no, thank you, no, it can't work, thank you, but no, I can't, and they're insisting. You've got 150 people waiting there. They can't wait for half an hour for me to have a discussion with the actor on how we're going to interpret certain things. So come on, let's move on. Okay,
Mario.
So,
I'm curious. Is there ever a good studio note where it's like, I didn't think of it that way before. That's really interesting.
When a studio gives you a note, it's because you failed to explain yourself. So
or they're justifying their existence.
No. I mean, well, if they're doing that, then they're silly. They shouldn't have the job. Right. They're just doing that. But I would hope that they're not. That they're there when they're there because of the fact that they've earned it. I hope. But so you take a note, and the question I ask is, okay, why are they asking me this note? Why are they giving me this note? In case of the blue blood, the robots, I could never understand why. But sometimes, okay, so I see. So they're asking this because I haven't made this thing clear. If I make this other thing clear, then they wouldn't be asking me this. And so you take these studio notes as again an opportunity to be better. If the studio note is stupid, then you have to throw the dice. Then you have to say, no, I'm going to stand by this at the risk of being fired.
Yeah.
So that's your choice. It's your choice. If you want to die on that hill, well, then it's up to you. You know, if you can afford it, you do it easier than if you can't afford it. But certain things that I believed in immensely. I remember in the pilot, the prison scene, there was a big problem during the scene where the choice is being made, the choice of the
children who is going to be taken.
The children, you know, and what the script was asking. And again, sometimes you realize things once you're on the set because you read it on the paper and it makes perfect sense. Then when you're there to actually give it life, it doesn't make any sense. It just does not work. The words don't work. The action doesn't. And you have to make a choice. And you make it. Now, if you're going to go and you're ready to waste an hour to call back Los Angeles, see what they want, or you take a stand and you step into it, step into the pool, man, step into the puddle. You hope the puddle is not too deep, but you do it.
Right.
I think that the way we solved it, especially, I mean, you know, if you've got those big soldiers there with those big masks.
Yeah, the Jaffa and their helmets.
How are you going to fight this? How are they going to fight? I mean, how are they? Everybody should be destroyed there. So the placing of Teal'c had to be very, very strategic in order to stop the guys from massacring everybody, and then the way that they escape. So something was different in the script. I remember that we had a moment there. I can't remember exactly what. If I were to see it again, I would remember. But it worked. I think that scene is tremendous. It's very scary,
there's a lot happening in that single moment, you know.
Yes.
I mean, you've got visual effects, you've got electronics going off, you've got extras, you've got it's the climax of the first of a couple for that film, you know. And it's all got to happen.
And you have 2 days to shoot it all. You know, so you better be prepared, man.
And I would be terrified to get into the editing room and be like, reflecting on what you said earlier, one of these beats are missing. So the intent is not coming through here. Like, what do you do at that point? You go and you see what other footage there is, I guess, and see if you can reconstruct.
This is why I overshoot.
Yeah.
This is why I actually my percentage is high. It's very high. I think at one point we were at 33-1, so there is 33 feet for every foot that you use. Wow. But coverage, yeah. Absolute coverage, because sometimes you're going to use a shot for just 2 seconds, but those 2 seconds take as long to set up as a whole 1 minute shot. You still have to light it. You still have to put the cameras. You still have to rehearse it. So the 2-second shot doesn't mean it was shot in 2 seconds. That's part and parcel of the whole. So yes, I covered myself. I always, if this doesn't work, if this one is on the floor, we realize that it's not working, or it doesn't cut properly exactly as we wanted. Can we cut to something else? And if we were to cut to something else, what is it? And whatever that is it going to be as exciting? And is it going to keep the pace going? So there are a lot of, it becomes natural, the way you think like that. I mean, for a newbie, this sounds, my God, this is so important. No, once you're in it, these considerations become very, very, very part and parcel of the whole, or it becomes natural, just like driving a bicycle, right?
Well, I watched Children of the Gods, the final cut, and I'm interested in your take on it if you've seen it. And also, I couldn't believe at how much there was shot that we didn't see. I mean, it's one of my favorite new scenes in that is when Teal'c and the gang are leaving back to the Stargate, and you do this pan along the side of the gate as they're going through, and there's no one on the other side, and you really get like a 3-dimensional feel for what is occurring. The camera's not locked off. You see the Stargate in all of its cool glory. It has eaten those people up. And that wasn't in the original, the broadcast version for whatever reason, but in the final cut, there it is. And it's freaking cool.
Yes, I remember. I mean, there are things in the recut. I started to tell you the opening shot. Jesus, I bled for that shot.
Yeah.
We worked so I did to see it destroyed. So on the first shot of the recut, I was already incensed.
Okay.
I don't think I enjoyed the recut as much as I enjoyed the original, but the recut they redid all the special effects.
Yeah, all the opticals.
Which was very nice, which was very good.
Yeah.
But I remember feeling a bit sad.
Well, Brad himself said in his special features interview, this is not erasing the old one. This is a Valentine for fans who went through the whole 10 seasons of that show, and it was and a chance to update the effects. Teal'c's audio is redone. There's a few things that I think are frankly an improvement to it in terms of that. But I mean, that's the benefit of 10 years of time. That the puddles are all consistent for one thing. You had 3 different vendors for the pilot. You did a lot. You were in the trenches for that show. Pre-production alone, like you said, for months. And so the benefit of time is the benefit of time. So.
Yes, of course. And again, playing with such toys.
Sure.
Come on, man. They've got the gate. What better toy do you have?
None.
Do you remember that shot where the first attack had just gone, and the camera is behind the gate, and the water is still there, and then suddenly the water disappears, and we come down, we go through the gate to see the coming in, and that was one huge, again, we had to move the crane so much back in order to be able to come down and move and move the but at the time,
wow,
we had to give the time so that the effect would disappear, and then the camera moves.
wow.
A simple one, of course, but those were considerations that were all there on paper on the storyboards that created.
Okay, can I hold on to you for 10 seconds here? I want to show you something real quick. Hang on, I'll be right back. So in my hallway, I have the entire storyboard sequence for the opening of Children of the Gods.
Oh my goodness!
And so, shot 37, the soldiers stop shooting, staring, slack-jawed, wide-eyed, horrified. 5 human soldiers and 2 aliens lie dead.
Oh my goodness!
General Hammond, whose face says that he knows mankind could be in deep shit.
Yes.
So-
Yes. You know what? I'll tell you one thing. I have somewhere. My goodness, that is fantastic. I have somewhere my script. Send me your email,
I will.
your address, and I'll send it to you.
Oh, I would love to see it, Mario. I would
Yeah,
absolutely
I'll
love
give it
to.
you. I don't know where it is, but it's here somewhere. And
That would be
it's
such an
got
honor,
my
sir.
notes in it. It's got the red, blue, green pages.
Wow, that I can't. I have no words. The things that you pulled off in that. I mean, Don S. Davis as Hammond. You know, that crane shot coming through the gate and then coming up kind of underneath him. You know, he is like, that is a great hero shot for him. It's a great oh shit moment, but you know, it's kind of establishing him as the father of this team for the rest of the show.
What a great actor! What a great actor!
We lost such a giant. Yeah.
Yes. Again,
absolutely.
So never any just yes sir. I mean, he answered militarily. You know, came in very well prepared, very spick and span hair, whatever hair he had left, very perfect position. Asked for the directions that I wanted of him, and he went and prepared and did it.
Wow. Yeah, he was a captain in the army, so he definitely.
Yes.
He definitely had that texture already, and he was brilliant for the next 7 seasons. Just Don was one of the greats. So, I have a couple more fan questions. Is that okay?
Please,
I don't want to abuse your time.
No. I'm enjoying this. I'm really enjoying it.
I'm loving having you on. Philippe wanted to know, was there anything in particular that you, and this has more to do with your process, was there anything in particular that you pulled out of the feature film that you were like, okay, yeah, I wanna leverage this here in the, or did you study it in a certain way, or was it, this is our show, we're gonna break the mold?
Well,
when you're creating a follow up, essentially, Children of the Gods is essentially Stargate 2.
Yes.
How do you work that?
Yeah, I tried to get in touch with Emmerich and
Dean Devlin.
They didn't want to talk. They didn't want to have anything to do with us. But I tried to get in touch. Yeah, the answer was piss off. You know, they didn't want to have anything to do with us. I understand there were some recriminations between them and the studio.
They had plans for 2 more films.
Yeah, and so that's why I think it's. But yes, of course. I think the one that I stole most was the donuts. You know, the transportation donuts.
Right.
Stole. I mean, it was the property of the studio at the time, so I could use it again. So I enjoyed using that. The whole mechanism of the Stargate was so sublime. I mean, why change it? You know, it was. I mean, what they created was superb, man. I mean, that effect. I think from all their films, that is the best effect ever created in all their career. That's my opinion. It's my opinion. So, but the creation of the Stargate is cinema history, man. It's cinema history, and who am I to change that?
Right.
So I enjoyed doing using that. We also kept certain peculiarities of the characters. You know, Samantha's line, which many wanted out, and eventually in the recut it was removed, when she talks about her genitals being the difference between genitals, and this what makes it why because mine are in and yours are out. Is that why? I mean, that was lots of fun. Unfortunately, it was cut in the recut. So you mentioned that it was a Valentine. I hope it was not in certain parts. I thought it was a bloody Valentine, because of these omissions,
Right.
which were unique. You know, even the nudity in the recut, I think, was hugely reduced, if I am not mistaken.
Because the rest of the show didn't have it, and it was we could have a long conversation about this, but yeah, there's the show goes on to become its own thing, you know, and
yes.
it's just you go in the directions that you go for a decade.
I had my very young children at the time in those scenes, in the scene of the banquet.
They're in there.
They're in there. Yes, they're in there. They're both my son and my daughter and her friend are there. The pyramids, of course, when they come out and they see themselves in the pyramid, that this was eventually repeated many times. Eventually, the series. What else?
Have you watched the show? Have you watched all of SG-1?
I've watched all of the first season.
Okay.
And I've watched my episodes of
course.
Every now and then, yes. But, you know, believe me, between watching what I have to watch and watching what I would like to watch is a big difference. And I have to watch a lot of stuff.
Of course.
To keep abreast of things.
Jay Francois, in response to the conspiracy theory talk, I have no doubt there is intelligent life elsewhere in the galaxy, but do you think we've been visited yet? And if not, how long until we are? What are your thoughts on that? I guess it goes back to who created the pyramids.
Do you really think I can answer that, or I can even dare answer that?
What's your opinion?
My thinking is, if we're alone, what a waste of space. Okay.
You've watched Contact.
Yeah. Number two, that's a lift. Number two, why can't there be more civilizations? Number three, if there were other civilizations here, why don't we have proof of them? Why is it that we don't have absolute proof? You know, I mean,
Fermi paradox.
It's and again, you know, if it's being kept secret by, I mean, come on, hundreds of people work for years in this place, and they're keeping secret. Then they come out and they are refused to sell the rights for a book that will make them millionaires after a career in the military. So now there are so many theories about the pyramids, what they were really for. I would believe, yes, civilization was much more advanced than we think it was in the past. You know, after all, remember, that's why they call the Dark Ages the Dark Ages, because at the time humanity went down so much. You know, I mean, when the Visigoths burnt
Rome.
the libraries
Oh.
in Spain and in Constantinople, it is said that humanity went back 1,000 years.
Wow.
Because of the I mean, the Arab science before Islam took over in the way it is today. But Islam at first was extremely scientific. I mean, they had matter. What is algebra? Algebra is algebra. It means the collection of. And algebra is the collection of all sciences.
Wow.
So the writing, the navigation by the stars, the numbers. There is so much that we today, in our arrogance, think that we are the innovators. Well, we're not. We're not. Really, we're not. And I would think that there were civilizations that we have forgotten, that we have absolutely destroyed in our. I mean, I live in Malta, a small island in the Mediterranean. One of the biggest problems in Malta is to dig in order to develop a piece of land. Because one of the big risks that you take is that the minute you start digging, you're going to find we've got Neolithic temples here. That's 3,000 years before Christ. When the Roman Empire looked upon these temples, they were looking at something older than how we see the Rome today. So, and these are Neolithic temples, again, made up of these huge, enormous, bigger stones than any stone found in Egypt. You know, how did they transport these
to this island?
They must have dug them somewhere and created these temples. But then there are temples dug in the rock. These are temples, the hypogeum. In order to go and visit them, you have to make an appointment that takes you about 2 years to be given the tickets to go in and see them, because the queue of visitors, and they only allow a small amount of people every day to go and see them.
Wow.
But these are temples beautifully carved, perfectly symmetrical in the living rock. You know, there's no tools that we know of that they could do this with. But again, now the excitement grows. Oh my goodness, this aliens. Calm down. Man was much cleverer than what we think he was. You know, remember that Rome had 1 million people, and once Rome fell, it took 1,000 years before the next city had another 1 million people in it. 1,000 years. So then the Dark Ages and the plagues that happened.
It's wild. We're talking about a civilization that could make concrete that's set underwater. We don't know how they did that.
The Colosseum, the floor of the Colosseum was concrete. Now, they could flood the Colosseum. They could open doors, and water from the Tiber would flow into the Colosseum. The water would rise about 2 feet, and they used to have sea battles in the Colosseum.
Oh my gosh.
And underneath, then once the water was drained, they had lifts in order to bring up the animals up and down. They had lifts, of course.
On pulleys, yeah.
You know, but that's the ingenuity.
Man.
If you were to go to Leptis Mania in Libya, these are the best preserved Rome. Now, how many of you guys know about Leptis Mania in Libya?
I've heard of it.
Now, Leptis Mania is
yeah.
the best contained remains of Roman architecture in the world, better than Rome.
Wow.
And the streets and the houses there, they had drainage systems underneath. So, you know, I'm sure many people don't know about these, and that is how history has been forgotten. Wow. So if we've been visited,
it's buried under the earth.
So one day we're going to discover something that's going to revolutionize the world. And I think one reason why we don't know more is the fear of
panic,
huge cataclysmic social changes that I don't think we are ready for. It's not. One of the things that people are not ready for is the negation of religion. Yeah. You know, that plays a huge part, because once aliens are established, everything that we believe in, every religion that we have, falls to bits.
I think a huge number of people will just, the proof could be standing right in front of them. They won't believe it.
Yes.
You know, it's a trick. It's not true.
But that's one of the biggest problems in accepting. Are we ready to accept different? I mean, what do you do to these people whose life depends on their faith?
Yeah.
Is it okay to destroy it? What do you fill it up with? Yeah. Do we fill it up with anything? Do we need to fill it up with anything? So, but that is not a question that any young punk who is ready to say, yeah, I don't care, we can answer. I mean, if we're going to live peacefully in the social contract, we have to care for each other. We have to care for each other for our own survival, you know. And that means that when the time comes for us to fight each other in order to save ourselves, we do that, because that's humankind.
There's an SG-1 episode called "The Road Not Taken" in season 10, where a situation, a crisis, forces the Stargate to be revealed, and it nearly destroys the planet. It brings the world to heel, and you know, people are unpredictable, and we believe in things so severely that many would be willing to die for them, or you know, couldn't continue to live with the knowledge that they were wrong, would kill themselves. So it's a broader conversation for sure.
It's a big conversation. It's very tough. Now you put yourself in that situation. Do I let it be known?
Yeah.
Am I going to take this responsibility?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, look at, you know, the incident in England right during the Second World War, where I think is it Canterbury? I don't know. But with the Enigma machine.
Oh, the Enigma machine, yes, yeah, with
because of they got
Turing, Alan Turing.
The Germans sent in a message saying, because they were suspicious that the British had cracked the Enigma machine, so they said that they were going to bomb Canterbury, something like that, so that they were watching to see. I don't know whether it's Canterbury or not. I don't know about some place, and they were watching to see, because if people were brought out,
they knew it was cracked.
The British had cracked it. One of Churchill's ministers, his family was there. Churchill brought him in, and he had him arrested and placed in isolation. Wow. Because he did not want him to let him inform his family. His family perished. Mm-hmm. But now, put yourself in Churchill's shoes. Are you going to decide to destroy? And this is the beauty of Stargate, right? Because the questions asked were always of cataclysmic effect that involved other people, not the characters. It involved other people and other civilizations, and the choice that you make is going to have huge repercussions. That is why it kept us for those 17 years, because and now this is the same thing with horror movies. So why do we like horror movies? We like horror movies because we love to be in danger, knowing full well that nothing can happen to us. So that feeling danger, feeling horror, knowing in the back of your mind that this is just a movie, is entertaining.
There is something to be said for exploring the limits of our sensory perception.
That's right.
Through entertainment, because it helps us feel more than what we normally could in our normal everyday circumstances.
And Stargate and also Outer Limits did that every single episode.
Yep.
Every single episode.
Yeah. Brad blew up the Earth a few times in Outer Limits. It's some of my favorite episodes. He was very good at blowing up the planet.
I did about 25 of those. My goodness.
I've got a couple more for you, Mario.
Tell me.
Tracy says, you have such an impressive background with projects that you've worked on in your career. Are there any other, and I think you've alluded to them a little bit, are there any other projects that you would want to work on that you have not yet had the opportunity, that you're waiting for the time and place?
You ask that to any director, any writer, and I've got dozens of great stuff. They don't want to give me the money for them. Of course, yes. I am now living in Malta, as I said, and Malta has one of the best rebates that exist in the world. It's not a tax rebate. Basically, our system is: you come to Malta, you spend $100 in Malta, we give you 40 of that back.
Wow.
40% of whatever you spend in Malta, we give it to you back.
Yeah, Game of Thrones did very well in season 1.
Yes, and Gladiator 2 did extremely well. Millions and millions and millions of dollars that are going to be given back to them. For number 1 was shot here, number 2 is also shot here. Now it's time for Malta to start telling its own stories, because now we've only been a service industry. So now we're looking for opportunities with 2 or 3 of our stories where we can produce movies with this rebate plus grants from the Arts Council and grants from the Malta Film Commission. So basically a $5 million movie becomes something like 2.8 when all is said and done. So that's where but we don't want just to service movies. We want to have our own scripts in co-production with Canada mostly. I've already done 3 movies with Canada in co-production, and they did very well. So
like you say, you're standing on so much history. I mean, I went there and I came away and people were like, what was it like? I'm like, well, Malta is a windy rock in the ocean, and 2, it is one of the most beautiful places on earth that I have ever seen. And I mean, I can't, anyone within the sound of my voice, go visit. You will be blown away by the culture, the food, the architecture was amazing.
Yes. As I was telling you, I mean, if you want to develop a land in Malta, it's always a big risk, because once you start digging, you're going to find something. And if you find something, then the historical department is going to come and say, you can't touch this land because we're going to take 5 years to see what's underneath. And they keep discovering stuff. Yeah. They keep discovering. In Turkey, 2 weeks ago, they discovered this huge, enormous mosaic that is so beautiful, a Roman mosaic in Turkey. And again, it was a field that was worked for hundreds of years, and the owner of the family decided to sell it and once they started to dig, they find it, and they lost the land because they can't touch it. So this is what happens in Malta,
Wow. So don't open a gift horse's mouth.
Exactly, because I mean, you'll
find gold and they'll take it from you.
Well, I mean, it's it's every old house here has its mysteries and treasures. I mean, the whole of Valletta. I don't know. I mean, you went to Valletta, of course, if you were
Yes.
here.
Yes.
Underneath Valletta, it's a whole nother city.
Wow.
The whole of interconnecting underground rooms, and it's huge. It's huge.
Wow. No, and it's everyone's cultural heritage.
Yes,
I mean, if you come
Malta
across
has-
something, it needs to be shared. So,
Per capita, Malta, and per square foot, Malta has the most United Nations international heritage sites
wow.
than the whole world. I mean, when you consider the size of the island per capita,
Yeah.
the number is big.
Yeah, the most in terms of any EU country, it's got the most people living on it, per square
Yes.
kilometer. It's just, oh man,
too
Game
much.
of Thrones. I saw season 1. And it's like, okay, I'm going there. So
Yes.
Last question for you. Philippe wanted to know, would you come back and direct once MGM and Amazon get their crap together and figure out what next Stargate they're going to do? Would you be willing to come back and direct some of it?
When can I pack?
Yes, sir.
Of course.
Absolutely.
The problem would be when, because
Right.
it's the next 5 years are chock full already. So it's always that, But hey, listen, I mean, this is such a great job, man. If you're lucky enough to be involved, if you're lucky enough to have people believe in you and trust you with lots of money, this is the responsibility here is huge, because you're talking millions of dollars per. I don't know how much the full set cost, but it ran into the millions, just the set of Stargate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's before you even started. That's just the set, to bring the wheel up to Vancouver, have it work, and so the whole thing is a lot of investment, and you have to respect that. You have to respect the fact, and to have people trust you with all that investment to make it. It's quite an honor and quite a privilege. And I wish I knew this when I was younger. I wouldn't have been so arrogant sometimes.
Well, Mario, I mean, your career as a director, I could go for hours with you on this, but in terms of Stargate, your legacy, the fingerprints that you left on the show are so important. And it was just... this has been an honor to sit down and talk with you and explore some of the facets of this, because the show wouldn't have turned out exactly as it was without your creative input, And yes, it does take the whole group, but I mean, you were steering that ship for that first episode, and you set its star. And I think that, along with Brad and Jonathan and all the work that you guys all put into it, helped establish a franchise that people are continuing to discover year after year, and it's been part of my now life's work to help mine those stories and preserve them for the future. So thank you for this tremendous opportunity.
You're very generous in your expression. Thank you very much. It's I enjoyed it. So I'll end with this. Whenever I have an argument with my wife, she always reminds me, "Yeah, but you like your job, so don't compare your job to mine, because you like it. I don't like what I have to do at the show, but you like it, so you can't talk." It's of course.
It's a blessing, and it's important to count your blessings.
Yes, I do. I honestly do. Thank you very much, guys. It was fantastic talking to you all.
Thank you, Mario Azzopardi. I appreciate your time, sir. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show. Be well.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Mario Azzopardi, director, Stargate SG-1's Children of the Gods, a number of additional episodes for SG-1 and Atlantis. You can check out his Stargate Command Wikipedia page and see all of his specific shows. I would love to have him back next year for season 4 when we return after the new year. This was a fantastic discussion, and I'm so privileged that he gave us 2 hours of his time. There's a lot to mine there, you know, and I'm glad that we took some tangents into some different directions with philosophy and with, you know, alien life and everything else, because it all comes together in this massive franchise that they all created. My thanks to my moderating team, Tracy and Anthony. You guys are rock stars. Anthony, he's over in the UK. You know, I'm sure he's got to get up for work tomorrow morning. Guys, thank you for moderating this episode. And thank you all for submitting questions. This was a great time. My appreciation must also go out to Robert C. Cooper for making this interview possible. He helped me get in touch with Mario, and this would not have happened without Robert's aid. So thank you, sir, so very much for that as well. Linda Gate Gabber Fury, my producer, Frederick Marcoux, my webmaster at Concepts Web. Go to dialthegate.com. We got a number of other episodes heading your way. Michael Adamthwaite's coming this afternoon. Cameron Bright's on Tuesday, and we've got a few more. Also, I'm just lining up. I've got some emails to respond to right now. So I am truly blessed for the attention that the show is continuing to get, and my fortune for having so many of these amazing talent on to discuss. I have no words. So my name is David Reed for Dial the Gate, and I will see you on the other side.